Hey guys, hello back again. I've been using the Moto Razr Plus 2023 for 1 week, and here is my 1 week review. Do you really need a folding phone? Absolutely not. Is it cool? Yes, it is. The Moto Razr Plus is a stylish and compact phone that folds in half for easy portability. I love the way that it fits in my pocket, and taking it in and out pretty easy and seamless. You don't have to worry about it falling out when you're sitting down compared to those large Ultra or Pro phones. So I think that is a pretty convenient perk. The outlet display is larger and more usable than previous years, making it easier to do quick tasks like checking notifications or just briefly scrolling to text without having to open the phone every single time. I mostly just use the outer display to record these daily vlogs for you guys. It helps me frame my shot and it is easy to use. Although I wish it does actually tell me it is recording, because when I'm recording there's no timer or clock, so it could just be speaking in front of a previous screen the whole time and not know it. And I do wish that it has some gestures or action command like Samsung phone where it can activate the recording instead of me having to hit the button every time and then turn my phone around on my tripod and stop framing myself that way. It's a lot of work. I know you use a selfie camera, you can wave your hand at it and it'll take a picture. And even that, I find it to be a little bit finicky. It doesn't work 100% of the time. But for some reason, the gestures doesn't work on the main camera, especially on the preview screen. So I think that is a lost opportunity. Pretty sure it can be added in a future software update. But for now, you kind of have to hit record and turn your phone around if you want to use the preview screen when recording yourself. And in the front outside display, by default, you have 6 apps. I know in my previous video, I said this was the max. I didn't realize that when you add more, you have to scroll down to see it. Intuitively, you would expect to scroll to the right and find the apps over there. So that was something I realized. You know, with me using these phones, I don't claim to be the expert at it. I just pick up this phone, I play around with it, I learn things as I go. For example, always on display. I did not know that Motorola doesn't have always on display. They just have a peak display. I guess there's a slight differentiator there. So with peak display, it allows you to peek at it when you pick up your phone. Where you double tap it, you can see the clock and glance at your notification. Samsung phone have always on display where it literally stays on all the time. And you can just glance at the notification that way. You can download the Move It Edge app if you want to have always on display on any Android phone that does not have it. I'm just a bit surprised that by 2023, every flagship phone would have always on display. But apparently Motorola does not, which is odd. But you can get it if you just download the app, so no big deal there. And going back to the front screen, I know you can have 6 apps on there or even more. Me personally, I never really launched any apps on there or found a reason to. I do occasionally, but never really quick the way I wanted to. So it's good for doing a quick glance, check a notification, but you want to spend a lot of time on it, you're better off just open up the phone at that point. And I can pretty much spend a 10-minute video just focusing on the outer screen alone, which is the biggest change you do see this year in the 2023 version. But I think I like the idea of it and actually using it. I probably spend about 5% of my time on it, but I do appreciate the larger screen, but I mostly just use it for framing my videos compared to actually using it. And with a different form factor, you pretty much have to think about how you want to use your phone every time you take it in and out of your pocket. Since the phone is so small, it can rotate in your pocket in different ways. Sometimes when you take it out of your pocket, it may be upside down, it may be backwards. Ironically, with the normal rectangular slab phones, you don't really have this issue because the phone's not going to rotate in your pocket. You just put one giant 6-inch phone in your pocket, you take it out, it's likely going to be in the same position that you left it. But with a folding phone, sometimes it's upside down, sometimes you have a backup phone, and you just have to fumble around a little bit just to find the unlock button or the face unlock, and then you have to figure out from there if you want to use a small screen or do you want to open it. Do you have one hand available or two? You can just open up the phone, and with one hand, you have to decide whether or not you want to dramatically flick your phone. People might be looking at you weird, so I try to do it on my own time and not being that guy that's just flicking his phone in public just to get attention. Even flicking your phone open, it does take some practice. You know, one wrong flick and this phone can go flying across the room. I prefer to not use any screen protectors or cases on my phone because I like the way that the phone naturally feels. Phone flicking is definitely an art, my friends. I'm a right-hand dominant, so with my right hand, I can usually get it done correctly in one flick. But on my left hand, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 flicks just to get it to open properly. And sometimes when I do flick the phone open, I noticed that the phone's not flat. Occasionally it is a degree or two slightly up, and then you kind of have to do a gentle push just to flatten it out a little bit. It does feel odd, but it's not a deal breaker. In general, the Audi display, it is small to do a lot of work on it. It is convenient if you're walking around, you glance at your text, you can just scroll up and down versus having to open it every single time, so that part of it is convenient. But I find that when I launch certain apps like Snapchat, it behaves weirdly and never the way that I want it to. For example, if I tap on the app, sometimes it would just launch the camera directly. Just because I open the Snapchat app doesn't mean I want to snap every single time. Sometimes I want to go in and read my group text, and it just launches the camera, then I hit that back, and then when I hit into the group text, occasionally it would just show the keyboard only, covering up the whole screen, but that doesn't do me any good. Why is the covering the whole screen? I can't even see what I'm typing. But I find that if I actually hit on the notification button and then click my Snapchat notification from there, then it would open up the actual chat thread that I can scroll through and read. So little things like that. You kind of have to play around with it, figure out what works best for you, and then you get frustrated, you can just open up the phone and use it normally. And once you do open up the phone, the internal display, pretty bright and vibrant. The phone's performance is generally pretty smooth, even though the chip is a year old, but I would argue that any chips over the last 3 years is pretty fast and responsive. I know with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 and Gen 2, Gen 2 does tend to be more efficient. When I was using Galaxy S23, it is more smooth. It does not overheat a lot, and the battery overall tends to last longer. But performance-wise, if you're scrolling back and forth, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. This phone is a 6.9-inch display when you fully open it. Although it is compact when it's folded, it is really long and thin when you open it up. And I think it's just a tad too wide to be using it with one hand. Typing it is a little challenging. I just feel like I need to reach just a little bit just to barely hit the enter sign on the other side, and it puts my hand in a weird position, and I feel like once I start having to tilt the phone and move it back and forth just to hit the other side, I do feel like I start to lose control a little bit and the phone might start flipping. So it is a bit dangerous to use with one hand, although it is considered a compact phone when folded. So it is long and tall. You have to shift your phone up and down when you want to reach certain areas of the screen. It does have a 165Hz refresh rate, so that tops the $1,800 Galaxy Z Fold out there for those who care and will notice about these little things. Me personally, it's a nice spec to have, but it doesn't really make that much difference for me on a day-to-day basis. I spend 95% of my time on the inner display when I'm using the phone, or just open it up and use it. But outer display, I just glance at notification, or if I'm walking around and we have one free hand, I would just quickly glance to that. And the Razr Plus is one of the few foldable phones in modern days that offer dust resistant, making it more pleasant to the eyes to look at. It claims to be the first dust resistant folding phone. It comes with IP52 rating, and it does make a pretty big difference. It looks cleaner compared to the previous flip and folds I have used in the past. And the key word is just being resistant. It does have some dust, it does have some watermark, but in general, with all these folding phones, a bending screen is newer technology, so overall, it is still a bit dusty and weird. It is not as water resistant compared to the Galaxy Z Flip series. And yes, the crease is still there in the middle, but it doesn't really bother me, although I do occasionally notice it when the phone doesn't open up completely flat. Not a deal breaker by any means. Price-wise, I think the Razr Plus is still a little bit on the expensive side, but it is in line with what the other foldables and flippable phones are offering in the market today. Luckily, the $800 variant is coming soon. Maybe it might be cheaper. It won't have the big front screen that I love so much, but it does offer almost everything else at a much more affordable price, so look forward to seeing that and testing it out whenever it comes out. Battery life on this phone is pretty solid. If you do a lot of videos, hotspot, heavy usage, I find that it'll last me 8 to 9 hours. And the light usage, that's pretty solid standby time and can last me up to 15 hours a day. People get caught up in screen on time, but I don't really like to focus on that. I like to look at the overall battery life and how a phone is going to last. It's really deceiving depending on how people use their phone. If I leave YouTube on for 9 hours straight with my screen on, then of course I'm going to get 9 hours of screen on time, but that's not how I use my phone. And on the other hand, if I have my phone closed, I can play music all day through the speakers, have zero screen on time. but my phone will last me 12 hours. So it all depends on how you use it, but that's just a general gauge there, and I hopefully answer the question and clarify things up a little bit. With the Razr Plus, one of the best features is being able to fold, and ironically, that can be the most annoying part sometimes, and it does cause some friction and confusion whenever you do interact with it. Like I mentioned earlier, when you take the phone out of your pocket, you never know what position it's going to end up in, and you have to turn the phone around and figure out, do I want to use it unlocked? Do I want to use it folded? Do I want to open it up? So just little things mentally that you have to think through in the back of your mind. And then I still have my Pixel 7a with me, and there's something nice and relaxing about just picking up a phone and being able to use it. And I don't really like the novelty factor and the nostalgia of a folding phone. When I switch back to a regular phone, it is surprisingly very relaxing and just easy to use, and I don't really think about all these other ways of unlocking my phone and how I want to use it. So just something to consider there once the novelty factor wears off. The camera itself is a little bit washed out, but I think it's fine for most average people. If you are a photographer or using these, you care a lot about your camera, I wouldn't get this phone. It will get the job done, but it is nowhere close to the best cameras out there. I record all my videos, including this one and all my other daily vlogs, using the Motorola main camera, so you guys can determine how the video quality is like. I am just in a regular room. I have one light above me. It is bright outside, so it's just natural lighting, and this is how it's going to look like. And I think it should be fine for most average people. The 30-watt fast charging brick is not included in this phone if you are in the US, so unfortunately you have to dig around the house, see what other charging bricks you have. I have tested the OnePlus 10T 120 watt fast charging brick. My laptop has 65 watt fast charging. And not all fast charging brick are the same, and it doesn't work with your phone with the same, so you have to play around with it. With those two options, it took me about 3 hours to fully charge the phone. And then I finally found my Samsung 45 watt fast charging brick, and that one takes me an hour, 20 minutes to fully charge the phone. And I think that is pretty much what you're going to expect depending on which brick you have, so not all charging bricks are created the same. Overall, Motorola Razr Plus is a good phone, but it is not without flaws. If you're looking for something stylish, compact, and fun to use, the Razr Plus is a great option, and you're paying for the nostalgia, the novelty factor. However, if you're on a budget or you're looking for a phone with the best specs that money can buy, you may want to look elsewhere. If you already bought the Razr Plus, let me know what your experience has been so far. If you haven't bought it already, if you're thinking about buying a flipping or a folding phone, I will wait until Samsung announced the Galaxy Z Flip 4 within the next month or so and see what they have in store for their version. I would expect a newer processor and a better camera on the Samsung phones, but the price is to be determined. So it's worth monitoring and seeing both options before pulling the trigger. But if you already have the Razr Plus, I would say just have fun and enjoy it. There's always going to be newer and better technology out there. You can wait forever, and there's always going to be something new coming out. So just appreciate it for what it is. Remember the good old times while living in the present. It is a good phone for what it is. It's a bit pricey, but I think you can make it work depending on trade-in deals and how much you can get it for. And if you just want to try something new and you're getting tired of the regular smartphone, it is definitely worth a try. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Please check out my daily vlogs on this phone if you haven't already. I plan to do an extensive coverage over the next few weeks or so before making a final verdict. So see you guys in the next video.